Somehow along the way, many of us have been enticed, seduced, manipulated, misled, and introduced into a spiritual role reversal. It's always been the goal of the enemy to disrupt what God had intended from the beginning, the way that he structured the earth and the way that he had things in place. And somehow along the way, the enemy came into the mind of people to introduce his way. And somehow, some way, we just effortlessly slipped into role reversals. For example, as a child, I will always watch my grandmother. She was like the spiritual heart of our home. Before I could even get out of bed, she was already up, cleaning up, waking up my granddad, getting him ready for work. And I could hear her humming, talking to God and humming hymns as she prepared breakfast that smelled so good for us to eat. By the time we sat down to eat, she would turn it on this radio station in Nashville, WVOL, and they will always have church services going. So as you can imagine, I would wake up to her humming hymns and talking to the Lord, and her cooking and singing hymns to God. And as I began to eat my breakfast, I would hear the word of God being spoken over my spirit, over my little soul. Throughout that day, I would see her care for children, train them up, teach them. I would see her prepare lunch, dinner. It was all just so effortless. I would see her feed magnitudes of people in the neighborhood because they didn't have food to eat. But then at the same time, I would see her get ready to go and serve in the vineyard to help push the word of God. But it was like an effortless flow of healthy femininity. And somehow, some way, evil got into God's idea of what he had in mind for each and every one of us. See, it's the intention of God for things to return to the way that he had it in the beginning. It was the intention for God, for us to experience healthy masculinity and healthy femininity. It was also the will of the evil one to introduce to you broken people for you to be soul tied to so that you could experience the very opposite, so that you could experience men that were very feminine and women that were very masculine, for you to be introduced to Jezebels in your home and in leadership roles and positions, for you to be introduced to just demonic things that were completely out of the order and the will of God. Why am I thinking about this today? Because God put it on my mind to let you know that things have changed. Things are getting back in its original order. Because somehow, some way along the way, we were introduced to we were drafted into a spiritual role reversal. I was talking to someone at my job the other day that just called me out of the blue. Somebody I don't even really know or talk to. But one of the things that I did hear her say was how every day she would cry about it, how stressed she was in the job, how she would just go into the bathroom and throw up because of panic attacks and anxiousness. And although women, some of us, we can perform some of the same tasks that men can perform, but it's some spaces that I truly, truly do believe that are designed for only men to dwell. See, the problem is no one like to have really real conversations. For us to understand that there is an order and there's a flow to the mind and the laws of God. There is a flow for masculinity to be in a healthy place spiritually, and a flow for femininity to be in a healthy place spiritually. And although I know it is easy sometimes, we make it look easy sometimes as women to wear the hats and to go out into the world and to provide for our families, to be single moms, to work and to do all of these things and then still come home. As I found myself this morning being the domestic just version of my grandmother, running through my home, getting everything ready, talking to my son and preparing breakfast. And I find myself just hemming and talking to God and thanking him for all that he has done. I found myself just being so free in a flow that God has created me to be in, because I understand that I am the spiritual heart of my home, because my heart is divinely connected to God. But although I couldn't get too comfortable today, because I had to take on the image of a man to also be the head of my household and provide for my family. I don't care what anyone has to say about it. I think that it's great as women that we're able to do some great things, but I still believe that there's a flow for a masculine presence to be in a family, to be loved, to be honored, to be respected in a family. Would I rather have somebody come on today that was in the will of God, whole, masculine and strong, to head my household? Absolutely. So that I could co-head the household with him? Absolutely. See, these are conversations that nobody really want to have, because everybody's on their independent thing. And although some of us have been pushed into being independent women because of the agenda that the enemy pushed to get us soul tied to toxic masculinity based on brokenness, to get us yoked together with people with issues that didn't do the work, to get us pushed into the posture of masculinity when God created us for femininity. And also, yes, we can be leaders and we can be innovators and we can be motivators. We can be inspirators. We can lead people to do things, but it's still an order to doing them. So my goal for you today is for you to understand that there is an order to the way that God works. And a lot of people are out of order because they don't want to obey the will of God. See, if you open up the book and look at it, God gives you an order and a sequence. If you just start off in Genesis 1, he gives you an order and a sequence that he had in mind. And from the very beginning, it was the goal of the enemy to draft you, to grab a hold of your mind, to reintroduce a spiritual flow that was out of the order of God so that he could perpetuate, so that he can reintroduce a new thought to you to get you gridlocked into role reversal. I love you guys. And until the next video, peace. Because I still be believing, yes I do, in you. Bye now.